I never thought I'd be the guy caught off guard like this. So blindsided, I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. It was our anniversary dinner, a special night we'd planned for months. I remember the way the candlelight flickered softly across her face, the subtle scent of her perfume mixing with the aroma of steak and garlic. We'd been together for 5 years, and I genuinely thought I knew her, knew us. That's why what happened next hit harder than I ever expected. We were sitting at that fancy restaurant, the one she'd picked in the city with the windows overlooking the skyline. Everything seemed perfect until she excused herself to the bathroom. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the marble floor. I reached for my phone, as I often did during these dinners, to check messages or social media. That's when I saw it, an unopened text from someone named Mike. The message froze me in place. "Tonight's the night. We're ready. Can't wait to finally get this over with." My stomach twisted, my palms went slick with sweat. I blinked, then scrolled up. There were more screenshots of plans, secret messages, emojis. That screamed excitement. They'd been secretly planning this for weeks. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind was racing. How could I have missed it? All those late nights she claimed she worked late, the girls' nights, the odd hours she'd be on her phone, she was hiding something. I looked at the messages again, feeling a cold, sinking truth settle in my chest. When she finally returned, I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My stomach was in knots, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. She sat down, smiled, touched my arm softly. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice smooth, almost too sweet. I looked down at my plate, then back up. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I'd found out, but I knew this was the moment I'd have to confront her. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the scene, her smile, that innocent look she always knew how to wear, like she had no idea she was about to destroy everything. I got up and snuck into her purse while she was asleep. Nerves on edge. My fingers trembled as I fished out her phone. I needed proof. I scrolled through her messages, her photos, her call logs. Every second I spent, my stomach knotted tighter. Then I saw it. A photo of a hotel room, her hand holding a keycard, a text saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That was enough. I knew I had to act, but I also knew I had to be careful. She'd been planning this for a while, and I didn't want to tip her off just yet. The next morning I sat in silence, my mind running through everything I'd uncovered. I felt betrayed, humiliated. How had I missed all the signs? Were there other clues I overlooked? I'd trusted her, believed in us. Now I wasn't so sure. I didn't want to blow up the night of our anniversary, but I couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong. I had to figure out my next move. The plan was forming in my mind, the perfect way to get revenge, to make her see what she lost. I'd waited long enough. I was done being the fool. My hands clenched into fists. I thought about confronting her then and there, but I wanted to make her sweat first. I wanted her to realize she couldn't cheat and get away with it. She crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. But how? I needed a way to expose her, to make her see the damage she'd done. That's when I remembered that I had access, more than I ever thought I'd need, to her digital world. I started planning, sketching out exactly what I'd do. I'd gather more proof, make her squirm. I'd turn the tables, and she'd regret ever betraying me. For now, I kept quiet. I let her think I was still blind, still unaware. Inside, I was boiling. I wanted her to feel the same betrayal I felt, amplified 100 times over. I was done playing the fool. The revenge plan was taking shape, and I was going to see it through. The question was, how far was I willing to go? And would I end up losing everything in the process? Next part. The following days were the longest of my life. I kept pretending everything was fine, going through the motions of work and daily life, but inside I was a storm of anger and betrayal. Every time I looked at her, I saw the way she smiled so easily, like she hadn't just chewed through 5 years of trust. I couldn't let her get away with it, not without some accountability. I made sure to keep my phone closed, and I started digging deeper into her digital footprint. She was careless at times, leaving her phone unlocked, not deleting certain messages. I grabbed it when she was in the shower, scrolling through her texts and apps. Every new exchange, every secret detail made my stomach turn colder. They'd been talking for weeks, planning that night, and I had only seen a fraction of it. One message popped out. Tonight's the night we finally get our freedom, accompanied by a selfie of her and Mike, smiling like they shared a secret nobody else knew. It was the kind of moment that made me want to throw up. I knew I had enough to ruin her, but I wanted more. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, helpless, humiliated, betrayed. I started thinking about how I could turn her actions against her. I wasn't just going to confront her blindly. I wanted to set her up, make her see that I knew everything. I spent the next few days gathering evidence, screenshots of the conversations, her secret plans, even a photo of her with Mike that I found hidden in a folder she thought I'd never find. It was all there, real, raw, and unforgiving. One night I sat her down and pressed play on my phone, showing her the messages. Her face went pale, her smile faltered. "What is this?" I asked, voice cold but steady. She blinked, then tried to brush it off. "It's nothing, just some stupid jokes, I swear." "Jokes? You've been planning this for weeks. How long has this been going on?" She looked down, voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened. I was stupid." I clenched my fists so tight I thought I'd break my knuckles. "Stupid? Do you have any idea what you've done to us, to me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Please, just listen." "No, I've listened long enough." I felt my jaw tight. "You've been lying for months. All those late nights, the girls' nights, the secret phone calls, you hid all of this from me. And for what? A quick fling, a stupid thrill." She reached for my hand, but I jerked back. "Don't touch me, not after this." That was the moment I decided I wouldn't let her walk away without consequences. I needed to do something that would make her understand how deep she'd cut me. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling, only worse. I'd set her up, but I also had to prepare for what came next. That's when I remembered something I'd read online about revenge. Something subtle, calculated, that wouldn't blow up in my face. I wanted her to see her mistake, but I also wanted to make it stick. I started planning my next move. I'd find a way to make her regret this, to show her she'd lost more than she ever realized. The plan was simple in theory, but devilishly tricky in execution. I'd make her think she was still in control, then expose her in a way that could be ignored. I'd leak the evidence to people close to her, maybe even her friends, and let the rumors do the rest. I wanted her to feel shame, regret, and perhaps most of all, a loss of respect. I knew this would hurt her, but I also knew it was the only way to get even. I'd become the puppet master, pulling her strings just enough to make her feel the chaos she'd unleashed. I'd let her see that she wasn't invincible, that her lies had a price. In my mind, I kept repeating, "She's not getting away with this. Not without paying." The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd have to be patient. Revenge, I learned, isn't quick. It's slow, calculated, and unforgiving. But secretly, I couldn't wait to see her face when she finally understood how badly I'd turned her world upside down. I was ready to start setting my traps. I just needed a little more time to get everything in place. Next part. The next few days were a blur. I threw myself into planning, making sure every move was precise. I kept my cool around her, smiling when I had to, but inside I was simmering. Every glance she threw my way felt like a needle. I could see her trying to gauge whether I was onto her, whether I knew. That look, half guilty, half nervous, made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. I kept her under close surveillance. I checked her phone again, looking for anything I might have missed. That's when I found the last piece of the puzzle, a calendar she kept on her laptop, marked with dates, notes, and a few locations. The days leading up to our anniversary had little check marks next to them, indicating she was meeting Mike or coordinating their plans. I made copies of everything I could find. I knew I'd need proof, but I also wanted to understand exactly how deep her betrayal went. The more I learned, the more I realized she'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. She staged her work trips, lied about her social commitments, all to prepare for that night. I started drafting a message I'd send to her friends, people she trusted and sometimes confided in. I told myself I wouldn't just expose her outright. I needed to make her feel the weight of her deceit. I wanted her to think she was still in control, to believe she could salvage her reputation. That way, when I finally hit her with the truth, it would hit the hardest. I also bought some time by subtly planting evidence that I knew more than I let on. A few days before the big reveal, I returned her phone after she accidentally left it on the table. I made sure to delete some messages, but I kept enough to keep her guessing. I wanted her to think I was still clueless, still trusting. That was part of the game. Meanwhile, I started preparing my words. How I'd confront her, what I'd say. I wasn't interested in a shouting match. I wanted her to see the cracks in her armor, to understand the damage she'd done. I'd make her realize that her lies had consequences, and I'd be the one to deliver them. Finally, I decided on the perfect moment, when she thought she'd gotten away with everything. I scheduled a dinner, just us, for the night I knew she'd least expect it. She'd be feeling confident, maybe even smug, thinking she'd outsmarted me. That's when I dropped the bomb. But I wasn't just going to confront her. No, I'd have a little surprise waiting, something that would make her realize she'd been caught, not just in her betrayal, but in her own arrogance. I planned to give her a taste of what I'd uncovered, but I'd do it in a way that left her no room to deny it. The night of the dinner arrived. I was nervous, but more than that, I was ready. I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. The restaurant was busy, the hum of conversation filling the air. I watched her walk in, her heels clicking confidently, her smile polished and perfect. She looked radiant, yet I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, perhaps sensing that something was different. We ordered wine, made small talk. She leaned in across the table, her eyes shining. "So how have you been?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Honestly, better than I've been in a while. There's something I've been meaning to talk to you about." Her brow furrowed slightly. "Oh." I looked her straight in the eyes, letting her see I was serious. "It's about us. About trust. About everything we've built." Her face stiffened, but she nodded, trying to keep her composure. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've found out about the planning, about you and Mike." I saw her flinch, her grip on her glass tightening. "All those messages, those secret meetings, they're pretty damning." Her voice was barely a whisper. I can explain." "Go ahead," I said, voice steady but cold. "Because I want to hear it from you. How long has this been going on?" She looked down, tears welling up, her breathing shallow. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "You think I'm stupid. You thought you could get away with it, didn't you?" Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, it just happened." I shook my head. "No, it didn't just happen. You planned this, and I've got the proof. You betrayed me, and I'm done." The waiter arrived with our entrees, but I barely noticed. My stomach was clenched tight. I'd waited for this moment, and I knew that from here, everything was about to change. As she sat there, eyes glassy, I realized I was finally ready to execute the plan I'd been formulating. To show her that the game was over and that she'd be paying for what she'd done. I just needed to decide how far I was willing to go. Next part. That dinner was just the beginning. As soon as we finished eating, I told her I needed a walk outside, something to clear my head. I got up, left the table, and headed to the restroom to make the final preparations. I knew I couldn't let her leave that night thinking she'd won, not without knowing she'd been caught red-handed. I slipped into the bathroom, pulled out my phone, and launched the app I'd been using to record her messages and plan my moves. I had everything I needed: screenshots of the texts, the hotel photo, the calendar evidence. It was time to show her that her deception was about to blow up in her face. I sent the evidence to her best friend, a woman she'd confided in recently. I knew she trusted her, and I wanted her to see what her friend had been up to behind her back. I included a note: "She's been lying to you just like she lied to me. Thought you should know." I made sure this message looked like it came from a mutual friend. I wanted it to hit hard, but not directly from me. Then I took a deep breath and went back to the table. She was finishing her wine, her hands trembling slightly, probably wondering why I'd taken so long. I sat down slowly, eyes cold, voice calm but authoritative. "I've got something to show you," I said, "and I want you to listen carefully." Her eyes widened. "What is it?" I pulled out my phone, opened the folder with all the evidence, and placed it on the table like a deck of cards. "This," I said, "is what I've been hiding, and now I'm going to let you see it." I played the messages, the hotel photo, the calendar with all the secret meetings. Her face went pale as each file loaded on the screen. Her hands shook and she was trying to speak, but no words came out. The truth hit her like a freight train, and I could see the realization sinking in, that I knew everything. "Why?" I asked, voice low and dangerous. "Why did you do this?" She choked. I don't know, I was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you this much. You didn't mean to, you planned this. You betrayed everything we had, I snapped. And for what? A few weeks of lying and sneaking around. She broke down crying, tears streaming down her face. I was lonely, I felt suffocated, I thought maybe I'd find happiness somewhere else. Hearing that made me want to scream, but I held myself together. I leaned in, voice cold. You don't get to blame me for trusting you. You broke that trust and now I'm done. I knew I had to act fast. The moment was right. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small envelope and slid it across the table toward her. Inside was a set of keys, the house, the car, everything that made us ours. This is the last thing you need to keep. I want you to leave tonight. Don't come back. Don't try to contact me. And if I see you near my stuff again, I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done, I said, voice steady. Her eyes welled up again, and she looked at keys like they were a weapon. Please, can we talk? No, I said sharply. There's nothing left to say. She reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Goodbye, I said, standing up and walking out of the restaurant without looking back. I felt that rush of relief mixed with emptiness, like I'd finally faced what I'd been avoiding for months. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I took a deep breath. The weight of betrayal lifted slightly, replaced by a strange sense of liberation. I knew this wasn't the end of the story, but it was the turning point. I'd made my move. The aftermath was predictable. I got home, packed a bag, and handed her the keys. I told her to leave and not to contact me again. Watching her drive away, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. The silence after she left was deafening, yet strangely comforting. I'd finally taken control. Now I had to face the mess I'd created. But one thing was clear: I would never be blind again. Trust, once broken, takes a long time to rebuild, and sometimes it's better to walk away. That night I realized revenge isn't about hurting someone just to hurt them. It's about reclaiming your dignity when everything else has been taken away. And honestly, I felt a lot lighter than I had in weeks. Next part. The days that followed were strange. The house felt emptier than ever, like the walls were echoing with my thoughts. I replayed everything, trying to understand how I missed so many signs, how I'd been so blind to her lies. The worst part was the silence. No more arguments, no more pretending everything was fine. Just the quiet hum of realization settling in my chest. I didn't reach out to her after I handed over the keys. I knew I needed space to breathe, to process what had happened. Instead, I spent hours reflecting, thinking about what I'd lost, what I'd gained, and most importantly, what I was going to do next. The betrayal had cut deep, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation, like I'd finally taken control back. I didn't want to be the guy who only reacts. I needed to be the guy who controls the narrative now. So I started planning my next move. Not revenge anymore, but making sure she understood the damage she'd caused. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, the loneliness she'd chosen over us. But I also wanted to rebuild myself, to come out of this stronger. 1 week after she drove away, I sat down and drafted a simple, straightforward letter. No anger, no threats, just facts. I wanted her to know that I wasn't going to chase her or beg her to come back. I wanted her to see that her actions had consequences, and I was ready to move on. I handed the letter to a courier and told him to send it to her apartment. Inside, I explained I'd found out everything that I knew about her betrayal and that I was done. No more trying to fix things, no more excuses. Just a clean break, a clear message that I was finished. That night, I finally allowed myself to feel. The sting of betrayal still lingered, but so did a strange sense of peace. I'd taken back control. I'd faced the truth head-on, and I'd made my decision. It was over. No more hiding, no more pretending. I was done with her, and I was finally free. I started focusing on myself, getting back into my hobbies, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and investing in work that I'd put on hold. It wasn't easy. Every now and then, a thought of her would sneak in, but I'd remind myself. She chose that path. She threw away what we had, and I wasn't going to chase shadows anymore. Looking back, I realize I learned something vital through all this. Revenge isn't just about hurting someone who hurt you, it's about reclaiming your dignity. It's about taking control of your own story. I could have spent months bitter, bitterly replaying every detail, or I could pick myself up, cut ties, and start fresh. So my advice: don't cling to the past. When you see red flags, face them early. Don't wait until betrayal slices so deep that healing feels impossible. And if you do find yourself betrayed, don't be afraid to take control, expose the truth, set your boundaries, and walk away with your head held high. Because at the end of the day, no one should get to destroy your peace and get away with it. I handed over the keys, packed what I needed, and left that chapter behind. Now I just move forward, clearer on what I want and what I won't accept. The betrayal stung, but it also taught me how to stand up for myself. And honestly, I feel a lot stronger for it. Next part. Looking back now, I realize that this whole ordeal changed me in ways I never expected. At first, I felt hollow, like I'd lost everything that mattered. But eventually, I saw it as a wake-up call. Trust isn't something you give lightly anymore, and betrayal isn't something I'd tolerate without consequences. That night, I took the first real step toward rebuilding my life, and I knew I had made the right choice. After sending her that letter, I felt an odd sense of closure. She responded with silence. No apology, no explanation, just the cold realization that she'd pushed me too far. I didn't need words from her. I'd already made my decision. The keys I handed her symbolized more than just the end of our relationship. They marked my reclaiming of my power. I moved out of the apartment the next day, leaving behind the memories and the betrayal. I found a small place nearby, a fresh start where I could breathe without looking over my shoulder. It wasn't easy. Every corner reminded me of what we had, of what I lost. But I knew I couldn't stay stuck in that pain. I had to keep going, keep building a life that wasn't defined by her lies. In the weeks that followed, I kept reminding myself of one thing: I won. Not in a petty, revengeful way, but in the sense that I refused to be a victim of her choices anymore. I refused to let her define my future. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just casual meetings, rediscovering what it felt like to connect without the weight of betrayal hanging over me. And I learned something else: the importance of listening to my instincts. I'd ignored the red flags, justified her excuses, and convinced myself I was overreacting. But I was. The signs had been there all along, hidden behind her charming smile and perfect gestures. I should have seen them, but I didn't want to believe the worst. Now I knew better. Trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. Looking back, I wish I could go back and tell myself to see the signs earlier, to listen to that small voice warning me something was wrong. But I also recognize that this experience was a harsh lesson. A painful one, sure, but a necessary one. I want anyone reading this who's going through something similar to know this: you're stronger than you think. Don't let betrayal define you. You can pick yourself up, and sometimes you have to do it alone. It may hurt, but it's also an opportunity. An opportunity to rebuild, to learn, and to come out better on the other side. Today, I don't just see myself as someone who got cheated on. I see someone who took control, faced the truth head-on, and refused to be a victim. I handed her the keys, closed that chapter, and moved on. And I know I'll be okay. Because in the end, the real revenge isn't about hurting her, it's about reclaiming your peace and dignity. And that's exactly what I did.